going to preview the 3 seed Kansas State versus the 9 seed Florida Atlantic University men's basketball game as an Elite 8 matchup. I'm going to say this right off the top. This is a feel-good story. I mean, this is the best year that Florida Atlantic University men's basketball's ever had, with 34 wins and 3 losses. And Kansas State last year was 14-17. They fired their coach Bruce Weber had to leave. I don't remember if he was fired or he resigned, but either way, they had to get a new head coach. They got Jerome Tang, the longtime assistant coach at Baylor, and they only returned 2 players from that roster. And they were not expected to do anything this year. But clearly, they overachieved. And both of these teams have overachieved. So I'm going to go over some players to keep an eye on for both teams. And I'm going to start with Florida Atlantic University. And I'm going to see whether or not there's any injuries on either team. I'm pretty sure Kansas State doesn't. Now, Florida Atlantic University, first of all, and I'm using covers.com, like the injury website, covers.com. Go to NCAA men's basketball. Nothing on them, so on the Florida Atlantic. Yeah, and the only 3 guys for Kansas State are redshirting this year. So, now, for Florida Atlantic University. Who is that best player? It's Jonell Davis, 13.9 points per game. If you want to check the height and all that, you could go right ahead if you want to. I'm just going to go over the stats for them, for each player, and I'll just say he's a guard. 13.9 points per game, 37.8 from the 3-point line, 85.4% from the free throw line, 5.4 rebounds per game, 1.5 steals per game, 1.7 turnovers per game. Fouls per game, 1.8 turnovers per game. Now, Elijah Martin, that's how I think it's pronounced. Alijah, 13 points per game. He's a guard too. 5.2 rebounds per game. 36.8% from the 3-point line, 77.2% from the free throw line. 1 steal per game, 1.8 fouls per game, 1.6 turnovers per game. Now, Vladislav Golden, that's how I think it's pronounced, but he's a center that's 7'1". Vladislav. That's how I believed it's pronounced, but I could be wrong, and he's from Russia, so 10.2 points per game, 60% from the free throw line on 130 attempts. If there's a hack-a-shack out there, he's the guy to do it. 6.4 rebounds per game, 1.2 blocks per game, 2.5 fouls per game, 1.3 turnovers per game. So, and then the next best player to keep an eye on is Nicholas Boyd. He's a guard, 9 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, 2.6 assists per game, 1.1 turnovers per game, which is pretty good. In 23.8 minutes per game. 1.8 fouls per game, 0.8 steals per game, 39.4% from 3, 64.3% from the free throw line on 42 attempts. That is a little concerning, but it's a little bit, and he's a guard. Now, Michael Forrest is the next player. He's a guard too. 8.5 points per game, 2.3 rebounds per game, 0.6 steals per game, 1.1 turnovers per game, 1.2 fouls per game, 34.4 points per game. Not points per game. From the 3-point line. 73.3% from free throws. So he's a 5th-year senior. So This is really an impressive run by them. And Brian Greenlee, he's a guard, 7.1 points per game, 2.5 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists per game, 1.6 turnovers per game, 1.4 fouls per game, 0.8 steals per game, 39.1% from the three-point line, 63.6% from free throws. That's most of the stats you need to keep an eye on. Giancarlo Rosado, Giancarlo. That's how I think it's pronounced, but I could be wrong. 5.8 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, 51 for 70 on free throws, which is 72.9%. 1.5 fouls per game, one turnover per game. Brandon Weatherspoon, he's a guard, 5.1 points per game, 2.2 rebounds per game, 1.2 fouls per game, 32.8% from the three-point line on 119 attempts, and 16 for 24 on free throws. So, and Gerald Gaffney, which I think that's probably all the players that they used against Tennessee, but I'm going to double check after this. 4.5 points per game, 2.7 rebounds per game, 2.4 assists per game, 1 turnover per game, 1.3 fouls per game, 79.3% from the free throw line, 32.6% from 3. So that's a yeah, that's everybody, because everybody else is 18 games or less. It actually was one player with 25 games, but that's besides the point. So that's the main ones you got to keep an eye on. I mean, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They go 9 deep. So, and they probably, if they have to get like another forward in, it'd probably be like Trey Carroll or Isaiah Gaines, one of those two. But I'm not going to go over their stats. Now, Kansas State side of things, I should know them back of my hand. I know the Big 12. Obviously, the best player, and he's a good feel-good story, Keontae Johnson. He had a heart issue when he was at Florida, and they were not sure he would play again, and he's playing. He would be in the NBA if he didn't have that issue right now. 17.7 points per game, 6.9 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists per game. 40% from the three-point line on 115 attempts, 73% from the free throw line. 1.1 steals per game, 2.3 fouls per game, 3 turnovers per game. No, that's a little issue that he has, but at forward, and Marquise Noel. And both of those guys, I think they're fifth-year seniors. No, I know Noel is. It's just the other. It's Keontae Johnson. I think so. But Marquise Noel, he's a beast. I mean, 17.2 points per game at guard, even though he's 5'8". 8.1 assists per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, 2.5 steals per game, 2 fouls per game, 3.6 turnovers per game. That is a little bit of an issue there. 35% from the three-point line on 237 attempts, and 88.9% from the free throw line. So, as you could tell, that guy does a lot. So, Keontae Johnson, he might have another year of eligibility. He might. I don't know. Now, the next guy is Naquan Tomlin. He's a forward. 10.3 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game, 1 block per game, 1.2 steals per game, 1.2 turnovers per game, 3 fouls per game, though. That's a little bit concerning. 26.9% from the three-point line. But that's on 67 attempts. So don't be shocked if he does shoot threes. Whether he makes them or not, I don't know. It just depends. 73.5% from the free throw line. So Desi Sills is another guy to keep an eye on. He's a guard. 8.7 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists per game, 0.9 steals per game, 1.7 turnovers per game, 2.4 fouls per game, 22.4% from the three-point line. That's on 76 attempts. 76.9% from the free throw line. So that's the main numbers you need to know about Dusty Sills. David Nugentson, number 3, 6.6 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, 0.7 steals per game, 2 fouls per game, 0.9 turnovers per game. He's a forward, and he does shoot. He's 5 for 10 on a three-point line, so I wouldn't expect him to shoot. But he's an awful free throw shooter. If there's a hack-a-shack out there, this is the guy. 46.7% from the free throw line. So, I'm just saying the obvious, and they're coming off of a 98-93 win over over Michigan State. 6.5 points per game for Cam Carter. He's a guard. 3 rebounds per game. 0.9 steals per game. 2.2 fouls per game. 1.5 turnovers per game. 33% on the three-point line on 103 attempts. 71.1% from free throws. So that's Ishmael Massoud. That's one of the other only other guy that returned for them. Yeah, Massoud averages 5.5 points per game, 1.8 fouls per game, 92.3% from the free throw line on 26 attempts though, and 41.6% from 3, but that's on 89 attempts. So and he's a forward, so he can shoot the ball. Abiyomi Iola, Iola. I apologize if I butchered that last name. He's a center, 3.5 points per game, 2.9 rebounds per game, 1.7 fouls per game, 0.8 turnovers per game, 0 for 1 on threes, but 76.9% from the free throw line on 39 attempts. So that's just a keep in mind deal. And the last player I'm going to mention is Tyke Green. He's a guard. 2.8 points per game, 2 rebounds per game, 1.4 fouls per game, 34.5% from the free throw line, but that's on 29 attempts. And 20.7% from the three-point line, but that's on 29 attempts as well. So that's just to keep in mind. I would say for both of these teams, you have nothing to lose. They're going to go to a Final Four when you're not expected to. One of you two. Regardless, whatever happens, you should really be proud of yourselves. Of course, with you probably not were expected to go this far, but of course, you gotta have that energy and that fight. You don't want to be intimidated by each other. That's first of all, and you gotta limit your foul trouble. You gotta contain the shooters, contain the slashers. You gotta rebound the ball on both ends. Of course, you want to get some fast break points, second chance points, points out of turnovers, points on the bench, and in the paint. 3 shot selection is key. Of course, you want to make it hard on the exact opposite on the defensive side. You gotta limit all those points, like I said, like turnovers, paint, 3-point line. Of course, you got to get to the free throw line by limiting those. And when you get to the free throw line, you got to make them count. You got to take care of the ball. Because if you turn over the ball, it's pretty hard a bunch of times. It's pretty hard, like 16 turnovers. For example, it's pretty hard to win. You got to stay composed. So, I know it sounds bland, but it's a really big key for both of these teams, and they gotta make adjustments on the fly. And both of these teams kind of match up with each other in terms of size, so it's kind of very similar. Granted, I know Florida Atlantic has a 7'1" guy. in Kansas State, two tallest players are 6'10". I mean, they use is 6'10", so it's not like a huge. It's somewhat of a difference, but it's not like 6 inches. I mean, it's not. So, anyways, if you like this content, like and subscribe button. See you guys later. 5 subscribers. We're on the road to it. Let's go.